I'm Robert Noel. This is an E open blues journey, part 4, dealing with the open E major blues scale. So when I say open position, I'm dealing with open strings to the 4th fret. If I go beyond the 4th fret, then I have extensions. In the key of E, we have 4 sharps, and I'm dealing with shapes of the E chord, mostly around this shape that we see as a form 2. Some call it a caged shape, like your bar chord shape. I call it form 2. That said, let's get right into the intervals of the major blues scale. You can look at my chart system. I have the 5 forms of the major blues scale. You could also take any of my charts and learn your major blues scale, which would be really good, and then bring it down to open position. You're going to have open strings. So when I go into the open blues scale, I'm going to be using some alternate fingering, and I'm going to be changing some of the fingerings because it lends itself to using different fingerings for different techniques. Here we go. The intervals are, of course, you've got 3 roots, E, 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 like we do for all the open E. We start with our open E, and we have E, we have a major second, then we have a minor third, a major third, and then we go right to the perfect 5th, the major 6th, and then we're back to root. From this root, we go root, we go to our major 2nd, and then we go to the open string for the minor 3rd, the major 3rd 1st finger, and then I'm going to go open B for the perfect 5th, and then I have a choice to use different fingering for the major 6th. I sometimes use the 2nd finger or the 1st finger, so it depends. So major 6, open E would be our root again, and we're back to major 2nd, minor 3rd, major 3rd. Now once again, I can use different fingering for these intervals. Coming back, let's just say I go major 3rd, minor 3rd, major 2nd, root, and then I come into 1st finger for my major 6, which is C sharp, open B is the 5th, and then I've got my major 3rd, my minor 3rd, my major 2nd, my root. Then I'm back to major 6, perfect 5th, major 3rd, minor 3rd, major 2nd, root. So this fingering lends itself to things that I play, and riffs and melodies and even arpeggios. I can use fingerings to bring into the major blues scale intervals. I can design, let's say I'm designing arpeggios as well as my melodies. What I'm doing here is I'm using these fingers because they lend themselves for pull-offs, for hammers. My major 2nd, I can blues out on that, I can vibrato. My minor 3rd, I can use that in a minor arpeggio. I've got the major 3rd. So I've got a minor triad. This is what's weird about the major blues scale, is I've got a minor arpeggio built in, minor 3rd, perfect 5th, root, along with the major. Weird. Major and minor together. This major blues scale is kind of getting weird, isn't it? Minor 3rd is your open G, and then you have your B, which is your 5th, and then your E. So your open strings is basically a minor triad until you put that G sharp in there, major 3rd. The G sharp always brings it into major. A lot of times, you know, you hear these bass lines. A honky tonk or a shuffle, it's based in that major blues scale notes because of the major 6, the perfect 5th, and you've got your root. What if I do a minor shuffle? Well, that's actually in major too. But I can use that minor 3rd to swing me into the major 3rd. I can blues out on just about all of these intervals. That major second. I'm going to go into my distorted sound. The dirt on that major second. Pull off. Hammer. Coming up with riffs, hammering the major 6 from the perfect 5th, B, to the open E root. You hear that riff all the time, right? And then pull-offs. You've got that minor 3rd, that really blue tone. Hideaway riff. And then your hammered major 3rd, very powerful in the blues. There's one of your classic riffs. Hitting that root, that middle root, hammering that major 3rd, maybe hitting the open B, and then your major 6, back to the perfect 5th, major 6, hit that open E root, and then slide from the 6, say your 3rd finger, to the closed root instead of hitting the open root. And you can blues out. You can blues out that major 3rd. I'm using a slide. I can pull offs. I can just lean into that major 2nd. Or 9 if you want to call it. It brings it into the major world. Now into that minor, the blue note world. Instead of playing my open G, extend into the 3rd finger G here. If I use alternate fingering, we got a tritone in here. Wow. If I do that C sharp and minor 3rd, and then we've got, and then if I use the alternate, that 4th finger instead of the open string, so if you've got your major 2nd, major 6, and your major 3rd, and minor 3rd. Such a classic riff. Ooh, that tritone. I love that. You get that. Once again, I could do my C sharp here and my G closed or open. So if I look at the other tritones in the major blues scale, I would see that I've got E to a minor 3rd, and then I've got that that 6, if I combine that together, that gives me a tritone. If I bring in C sharp to G here, that gives me another tritone. So that the G to the C sharp is a tritone. And if I add C sharp to G, tritones. Cool thing about the major blues scale is that we bring it into those open strings, and we've got that beautiful major third that brings us out of that tritone world. And that major second dissonant, but it brings us out of the dissonance world, the super dissonance. You know, a 9, you can kind of make that kind of mellow and bluesy, and the same thing with the 6. But anytime you want to bring that minor third in with some of those other intervals, you're looking at some tritones possibly. And that minor third is always going to blues. I love bluesing out on the slow blues on that 6. Bluesing out on a major third, the nuances, making that major third cry. And then, ooh, so sad on that minor third. Ooh, it's still sad because I'm using those slow vibratos on that major third. That hammered major third from the open G string. If you listen to a lot of old Southern rock, like Dickie Bettes and Allman Brothers kind of thing, you'll hear those riffs of it. So and that would be like. Using different fingerings, same notes, first finger. Lets me get into that third finger. It's kind of weird with that minor third in there, though. Arpeggio. So I've got that nice major arpeggios, but then the weirdness of bringing in the minor third into the arpeggio as a leading tone, minor third. Hope that gives you some ideas. Starting to utilize the major blues scale. It's important that you know your major scale and know the intervals in the major scale so you can pull out the major 7, but then you want to add in the minor third, okay? So it's kind of weird. Major blues scale is definitely a special scale, as you will see when you learn the minor E open minor and you learn the E open minor blues and your pentatonic major and minor, maybe even your augmented and your diminished scales. If we get that far with our adventures, I'm sure we will. Anyways, thank you. I hope you hit the like button. Please subscribe. It would be great. If you want to join my family, I have a very special family on the Guitar Zone Patreon. Go to the Patreon where you can be part of my family. Come in on one of the tiers. That way you can have personal lessons with me. Personally talking, you got a lot more of the everything and charts, and there's just a lot more details there, okay? Lectures and hundreds of videos that I've done. All right, so wow, we're really on this really great journey, and the journey has been really about the open area of E. And with all the different E chords you could play in this area, that's something you want to examine. What your chords are, what are your arpeggios, and what are your scales? That's the Trinity. Chord, scale, arpeggio. Arpeggio, chord, scale. Scale, arpeggio, chord. However you want to say it. It's the religion of guitar philosophy. Or mine anyways. You know, needing to understand the Trinity. And when you put all that together in open position, then you can take what you've learned in open position and bring it into any of the closed position, your cage position, or what I call forms. From open position here into 4, 5, E, I see form 1, form 2. Really open position to me is really partially form 2 and form 3, the open strings. And the fingerings can be very versatile. You can use logical fingerings, and then you can come up with your own fingering designs for what intervals you want to play, utilizing the open strings, and sometimes closing the open strings to get a riff going or a different technique or nuance. So the techniques that you know, the vibratos you know, the way you bend, the skills that you have in your blues playing or your rock and roll playing, you're going to be able to bring that in to any of these scales. I love open position because we've got the open strings. They sound really big and fat, and it's just really cool. So many songs written in open position. So if you understand open E, you'll be able to look at, well, open G, open A, open C, open D. What are the possibilities? It's a study, it's an adventure, and it's another one of our journeys. Thanks for being on this journey with me. Let's continue.